Motherhood is one of the most fulfilling journeys life has to offer, but it can be exhausting. Add working into the mix, and you may find yourself feeling really stretched thin. Today, my guest, Lila Rose, will be chatting about managing career and motherhood. Lila is a writer, speaker, and activist. Lila founded and serves as president of Live Action, a human rights nonprofit with the largest digital footprint for the global pro-life movement. Lila's investigative reporting on the abortion industry has been featured in most major news outlets, including the Los Angeles Times, the Washington Post, the Atlantic, CBS, and ABC Nightline. Her media appearances including Fox News, Hannity, and Tucker Carlson Tonight, as well as CNN, BBC, and many other national television and radio programs. Lila is the author of Fighting for Life, Becoming a Force for Change in a Wounded World. She's the host of The Lila Rose Show, a podcast that tackles relationships, faith, culture, and politics. Welcome to the Gems of Motherhood, Lila. It's great to have you on the show.
Thanks for having me, Sharon.
You
Great
are...
to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much. You are like such a power woman, power mom, and you're expecting with another one on the way. So congratulations. And
Thank you.
Today the topic is right up on your alley, managing career and motherhood. As we both know, it's really no easy task. So just tell me, what is it like for you managing career and motherhood?
Well, first of all, I have to say I'm in awe of, the more I'm a mom, because I'm a new mom, the more I'm in awe of women who I know have done this for, centuries really, but I know so many working moms and I learn from them. So I'll share what I've learned and, how it's been for me, but also all of the advice I've received that I feel is preparing me to continue working, even while trying to be a present mom. And I'll first say, I read this wonderful book. You might be familiar with it, called Being There, The Importance of the First 3 Years. And it's all about childhood development and how those first 3 years of the baby's life are so important for the child to be close with the primary caretaker, which is ideally the biological mother when possible. Sometimes of adoption, it's not possible, but just the primary mom, really. And if there's nannies involved or daycare involved, the still importance of making that bond, putting that bond first. And so, reading that book, when I entered motherhood, now got pregnant with my son 2 years ago, he's now over a year old. And then I have my second now. I really wanted to do it very intentionally because my work has been very busy over the last decade. I, would be traveling every week, I would be going international, traveling internationally. I would be pulling long days, early mornings, late nights on the road constantly, and realized when I became a mom, I would have to find a way to adjust my career and my work to serve my family. And so, there's so many lessons I'm still learning because I'm not like an expert at this, but I will say one of the key things I've learned is to say no. And I know that's really hard for women in work. And especially when you have a boss and you need to do your work and get your work done. But ultimately, my first priority is my son and not my work. And that's hard for someone whose work was their first priority in many ways. Obviously, my family has always been a priority in my faith, but it's a very important cause that I am involved in. And I'm so grateful for the opportunity to make a difference in it. So, I can share lots of details for what that looks like, but overall, it's a journey. It's a dance to learn how to prioritize and to say no when I can, to make sure I'm getting that quality time in with my son on a daily basis.
Right. Yeah, that's so awesome. I know that you mentioned that the first 3 years of life, it's so important in terms of bonding between the parents, mom, especially with your son or daughter. And with you, having such a young kid and then another baby on the way, how are you managing that besides saying no? Do you find yourself having to push back a lot more? Because intentionality is really important in order for us to really be able to have a healthy relationship with our kids, right? Because they see, they watch, they model, after us. And at that very young age, they pick up so many things so quickly and they absorb so fast. Besides saying no, what other things did you have to do? Did you find yourself having to sacrifice, cutting out certain things in your life? Because motherhood is just so taxing.
Yeah, definitely. So this is kind of what my day-to-day looks like. And again, this is unique to me. every woman has a different state, in her life and what she's working with. But some of the things that have helped me is, first of all, I want to not just give my son quality time, but I want to give him quantity time. And that's really hard when you're trying to work a full work week. Right. So some of the things I've done is in the morning, making that really sacred time when I first get up. I try not to start work till 9 a.m. I mean, I do check emails first thing, and start some balls rolling, but I try to not really shut off mom and turn on work until 9. And, again, that can be hard for other women who might have a different schedule, but I try to have that 6 a.m. to 8:30 a.m. time where we have breakfast. I get ready with him. That's one thing I've definitely sacrificed is the beauty routine. I don't really have much of one. It's shortened way down and it involves him. I'm like doing my makeup and things like that. And I let him, I talk to him, he's playing with his toys. I let him play, in my get ready area. And we're trying to make that time with him. And children, they love to free play and everything. And sometimes he wants to sit in my lap, but so I'm open to being interrupted, but it's making that time in the morning where it's no longer my morning routine, it's our morning routine. And I just adjust it to make it about quality time with him, even though I have to get some things done. So that's one thing that's helped. Working from home is a huge blessing. I know that I'm very blessed to be able to do that primarily. Coronavirus has actually helped with that. There's not a lot of like in-person meetings to go to. And I'm so grateful for that because what then I do is, we have our, babysitter come in the morning. She usually takes him on a walk, takes him to the park. I time block. I just get stuff done. Right. My important phone calls, new meetings, do whatever. And then it's lunchtime and usually I can take a lunch break. Sometimes it's too busy, but I try to feed him lunch, be there for him lunch, talk to him during lunch, have lunch together. Again, it's not my lunchtime anymore. It's like his, right? So that's another change. I'm like scrambling to get my food because I want to, make sure it's time where he knows he's being focused on. And then, he then has his nap time and we have, the schedule. And that's another important block. He's napping. I know this is the time I can crush stuff, get it done. And so there's, lots of tweaks like that. And then, with work, I mentioned I say no. It also means, passing up on some opportunities, which, in my line of work, it's about educating people on abortion. It's about saving lives. So I've really tried to delegate and share opportunities to say, listen, do I really need to be at this meeting or do I really need to do this interview or whatever, and try to give those opportunities to others. And I know that, that can be challenging. I imagine there's all kinds of challenges for other women. And for me, sometimes I'm like, oh, I'm not working hard enough. Right. I should be doing more. And it's really getting over the guilt or, the sort of negative feelings that might come with that to say, listen, my priority is my son. So if I'm taking 30 minutes in the afternoon to go on a walk with him because he wants to explore with mom, shutting down my work to do that. And sometimes he'll be in the stroller and I'll be, on a work call or doing work emails, but he knows mom is there. That's worth it. And then the other thing I really have been doing, which has changed my life a lot, is evening work. So after he goes to bed by 8 p.m., I try to get another couple hours in. And that time is really sacred because it's an area where I know he's sleeping, he's happy, and I can just get stuff done. Am I getting less sleep than before? Yes. Is that hard? Has it affected my prayer life? I mean, yes, I try to put prayer first in my day. I used to be able to do mass every day and I would do, try to do an hour of prayer and really, have that time. And now it's like, okay, I'm going to pray while I'm with my son. I'm going to still try to do, at least set aside 20 minutes where it's just me and God. Yeah. But I'm going to do it, be more flexible with how I even pray. So flexibility and then making it a kind of a co-effort with my son, doing it with my son. Those are some things that have really helped me be able to keep work going while trying to be, present as a mom.
Yeah, those are all really, really great changes. And I mean, time blocking is huge because
totally
when you block that time, I mean, for me, like my time block is like nap time. The 2 hours is so precious, and in the nighttime, after bedtime, those lot of times, you just kind of try to get as much work done as possible. And like you said, prayer life do change too. What you were able to do pre-children, you can't do it now as much. And sometimes there are women and there are mothers who really find it difficult to handle those change, and there are certain women who may not necessarily want to give up their career over motherhood. Right. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think that we should absolutely prioritize motherhood over career. And sometimes it's not possible because we have to pay the bills, especially if you're a single parent or you need that dual income or whatever. But for my husband and I, he's working, I'm working. I am primarily working because I can be flexible in my work and because the work I believe is so important. Yes, I get a paycheck. I'm grateful for that. But my husband and I decided from the beginning that if needed, like if we had a child with disability or there was some serious crisis, we would cut back whatever we needed to do. Our quality of life, vacations, shopping, those things don't matter at the end of the day, if so that we are finding a way, even if we have to move, whatever, to be able to live on one income if that was what was necessary to put our kids first. So I think for us, I think it's important for any mom, and for myself, I know it's important for us to make use of our intellectual gifts, our talent, but motherhood is a job. It's a full-time job, And it so is. I think we need to start appreciating it for that in society and also give ourselves flexibility. So for me, the way I'm a mom is different from the next mom, right? So like some moms, they're so good with the kids having these cute outfits all the time that are matching and they're good with organization. And I like look at, moms on Instagram and how they do their mom thing. Right. And I'm a different mom, I'm more maybe free-spirited. I like to, go out with him and explore. I take him with me. I try to do things around the house with him, but I guess I'm less naturally organized and I find less joy. Like I think some women find joy in like organization and putting things together and like homemaking type activities. That's not really my thing. And so instead of being hard on myself about that, it's like, well, what are the mom activities that I enjoy that are good for my son? I still do the basics in the other areas because it is part of the job and it's important. But I think that's also part of it is giving ourselves grace as mom. Because I think a lot of the times women dive into their careers and sort of neglect their motherhood because they're not satisfied in their motherhood. And so it's finding ways to really enjoy and be satisfied in your motherhood because it is a job. It is a career, I think the most important career, and it deserves that time and commitment from us. So, it's different for each woman, but for me, it's not comparing myself too much, finding women I do relate to who are similar to me and I can learn from how they've done things. Yeah. And then enjoying it, like letting myself have fun with my son. Yeah. Letting it be a little messy so that he and I can have, a fun day together and I don't get all worked up that there's laundry to be done, trying to lower certain standards that maybe even the world has for how the house should be in order to focus on my son knowing he's loved and learning things, and sometimes that's learning things in the house. So it's not like we abandon the house. It's my son, every night after bath time, it's like, put away your towel, put your clothes in the hamper. He's already learning things like this. But ultimately the focus is him and his development and my own, flexibility and sanity. Yes. Yeah. So that we can be healthy together, and joyful. Yeah, absolutely. Being healthy together and joyful. And sometimes it's like, maybe, like you were saying that you're a different kind of mom. And I feel like we're a little bit similar because I'm also not exactly the type of mom that would create something or homemade designs things, on the cupcakes. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's too much work for me. Gender reveal. Like, right. You know what I mean? But there are also things that your child may enjoy a little bit more, like being outside, and like, just like yesterday, I was like, okay, Shiloh, you get on your scooter because she likes a scooter. You can go to the park, you get on your scooter and mommy will run. Okay. So I got got my workout in and she got to scoot around the whole park and she was happy. And at the end of the day, she was like, mommy, I'm really tired. Okay, let's get on the stroller and we'll go. But at the end of the day, it's like we as moms, as mothers, we need to learn to give ourselves some grace because when we're so hard upon ourselves and like you said, you don't compare with other moms because when you start comparing, then you're not going to feel content with where you're called as a mom. Right. And I think a lot of it's mind management. I think basically being a mother is mind management and opening our hearts to love. And mind management is not letting ourselves into negative thoughts about our spouse, about our son, our daughter, about ourselves, about our state in life, dissatisfaction, it's not good enough, whatever. And really training our minds to see what is good and beautiful and true about our lives, training our behavior to appreciate and celebrate self-knowledge, recognizing this is how I'm wired. I'm wired to be more free-spirited. I like my creative time. I don't like little tasks. Those are overwhelming for me. So being patient with myself and how I structure, my day and how I'm a mom. Yeah. So I think mind management, self-awareness, and really having those practices, those habits of thankfulness and enjoying all of the beauty that is motherhood. I think those things are essential for all of us. And when we don't have that, we're just going with wherever our emotions are, all these crazy thoughts always coming through our minds, negative thoughts, whatever stresses. And then we just get bogged down. And then we're not happy. We're not joyful. We're not at peace. We're stressed. And that's like, stress is a lion coming to get you. Like you're not really in a position to be like a chill, fun mom, or even to do good work when you're stressed. So I think, really managing those things are key, both for your work and for being a mom.
Obviously, we're going through a season of change since last year, 2020, and COVID has done some good for certain families, and it has also really shifted a lot of things for different families, for different mothers, and some mothers have been forced to give up their career due to the pandemic. And yet it's such a struggle for them in this area. How can we help these mothers gain a sense of self back and going back to having a career?
Well, so I think as women, we have to look at ourselves holistically always. How are we doing with our faith? How are we doing physically with our physical health? How are we doing with our mind management? How are we doing with our motherhood? How are we doing with our friendship? How are we doing with our relationship with our spouse and our love and our romance? How are we doing with our relationship to our space, our households, right? Our homes? And then how are we doing with our dreams? Because I think it's very important as women, to dream and to have goals, to let ourselves, to not tell ourselves you're not allowed to dream of something big. Like, what's your biggest dream? Don't be afraid of that. That doesn't mean you make it an idol, but it means that you let yourself verbalize it. You pray with it. You explore, okay, what's a small thing I can do today to achieve that? And you're at peace knowing I'm working towards it. You have the mind management to say, I'm not going to get all worked up because I haven't achieved it yet, or, it's impossible, but I'm going to do this small thing today, to maybe plan for it or work towards this goal. But I think that's the key, is having goals, having a holistic understanding of ourselves, and, working on these different pieces of our life. Maybe the source of dissatisfaction, the reason we're so focused on career has to do with our relationship with our husband, or our spouse or whatever. Maybe that's actually an unhappiness there, dissatisfaction there is making us overemphasize this other part of our life. So I think it's really taking the time to look at the woman's, look at our space, our physical space, look at our time with friends, our leisure time, our relaxation time, look at our time with our dreams, our goals, that can be our career, look at our time or other things, look at our time with our spouse, our motherhood, and just have a recognition of where our life is at, so we can work to improve pieces that might be struggling. And we can also, recognize that we're not just a machine. We're not just like a mom who does stuff. Yeah. We are a woman, who has a lot of different attributes and a lot of different things that make up who she is.
Yeah, that's so good. Now, what do you think, for these moms who are looking to get back into the career, what do you think motherhood penalty looks like? For moms who have not been in workforce for years, I'm sure they're going to have a little bit of a harder time to get back into the workforce.
Yeah, no, I think about one of my friends who, gave up her full-time career, which is awesome, because she had three under four, wow. And it's like, she just couldn't, it was too much at the time. And it's hard because she's like, I really want to keep going. And she's trying to freelance, trying to keep her finger in it, but that's difficult in that line of work. And so I think one of the things she's taught me is she keeps trying, she's not giving up. She tries to find ways to still, keep her skill up, even though it's not something that she can do full time. And she tries to practice using the time she has, because she has more time now that she doesn't have full-time work, to sow into these other areas like her home, her kids, her friendship, leisure activities, time with her husband. So she's valuing the time she does have while not giving up on the career goals entirely. But yeah, I mean, it's hard. I think that's a larger question about like the way our economy is structured, because I do think one of the benefits of the pandemic is we're emphasizing less, being in the office 8 to 5, having to get this stuff done in this certain way. And there's more mobility now, I think, and I think there will be long lasting changes there. Right. I think that's a good thing long-term for women, especially working women and working moms, but it's still, I mean, I'm not going to pretend there aren't taxes, there aren't issues, but I think in life, it's a series of trade-offs always. You're investing in something. Like my friend, she's chosen this because she feels more peace. She knows more peace, ultimately focusing this time, because she's able to, on her very young children, instead of having to be out in an office, 10 hours a day. And she's made that decision. And I think being at peace with our own decisions is also very important, because we can come to like, oh, I also, you're torn. And something, no, this is my decision. I'm proud of my decision. I'll still try to, do these things on the side for my career, but it's not the, 10 hours of my day anymore. And I'm going to own this because I know what I'm doing for my kids. And I know what I'm also doing for my own physical health right now. I'm working on my own health. And I think that it's not easy. Nothing in life is easy, but it's being at peace with our choices, and it's leaning into our choices. And I do think there are opportunities we don't realize later on too. Yeah. We might think, oh, it's impossible to get back into my career. There might be a variation on your career you didn't even anticipate that you will now get to experience. So I would say, don't give up, don't lose hope, keep trying and enjoy what you have, enjoy what you have, because what you have is beautiful.
Amen. That's awesome. Now, a lot of women and a lot of mothers tend to have a weight on your shoulder in terms of needing to do everything in the day, or just need to take on everything, because we have to cook, we have to clean, we have to take care of our child, and, we have to take care of our home, our space, and everything. Now, can you just share with me some tips on how to be guilt-free for balancing career and motherhood?
Yeah. Well, I think it's a work in progress. For example, I try to cook dinner most nights, but that doesn't always happen, or there's days when my son is out with our babysitter and I'm, I don't see him for hours and hours and hours on end. I'm in back-to-back calls, and it's like, I feel, okay, I'm not giving him what he needs. I'm not giving my family what they need. But I think that's where the mind management thing is so important, because, there's seasons to life. Sometimes with your work and sometimes with the stuff you have to do, it is more intense, and that's okay. Children are very resilient. You still are doing your best to make time, to prioritize them. And sometimes if you really have to do this extra work, you're doing it ultimately because you love your family. You're doing it ultimately because you want to, serve others. So I think the mind management piece is key. And, we can affect our feelings. Guilt is a feeling. And guilt comes from thought or just instinct. It's not even a thought anymore, because we've thought it so many times and just goes right to the feeling of guilt. Yeah. So I think it's reworking our brains to say, okay, I choose. It's like literally coaching ourselves, right? I am choosing this today because it's the best I have to offer. I'm grateful for these opportunities. My child, I've done my best to make sure my child's in a good place right now. And, if this continues for too many weeks or months, I will make a different decision to change my life. But right now, this is where it's at. And I'm at peace with that. I'm going to show up for my work. I'm going to, do my best. And when I'm with my son or my daughter, I'm going to show up for them and give them 100%. And I'm at peace with that. And God help me, I think telling ourselves really reminding ourselves what we're doing instead of just reacting with negative feelings, right? I think is key. Again, it's not easy. It's a work in progress, but we're in the driver's seat, we're in the driver's seat. And so coaching ourselves is part of the key, I think.
Yeah. The mindset thing is huge. I think one of the things that moms should really keep in mind is that you've done your best for the day. You've done whatever that you could for the day. And if you can't do it, then just leave it for tomorrow and just save it, because it will still be there. It will get done eventually. Right. And so, but we're almost at the end of the show, Lila. I just want to know, is there anything else that you would like to share with other Gems of Mothers out there?
I think, so I just wrote my first book, Fighting for Life, and the whole end of the book, it's all about being an activist, making a difference in the world, fighting, for a cause, for what matters, and how to do that, lessons I've learned. But in the end of the book, I talk about family, and I say, ultimately, the family is the ultimate mission. And the family is the ultimate calling. And what you do with your children, with your spouse, how you love them, how you put them first is really the source ultimately of our happiness in this life. And, and as Christians, I'm a Christian, and that's also what our faith teaches is, God gives us our marriage as a path to heaven, as a path to, Jesus actually loving the church is like a bride loving a groom loving his bride, and the church loving Jesus is like a bride loving the groom. So, and the children that come from that are, these beautiful expressions of love, manifestations of love. So I say that because value your motherhood. It is the most important job, the most important career, the greatest blessing. You are doing the work, the deep work to make our world more beautiful and loving. And so be proud of yourselves. Don't let anyone ever look down on you. Oh, you're a stay-at-home mom, or you're just a mom, or you're passing up career opportunities to be a mom. No, you are the best, you are doing the best work. And, society might not appreciate that right now, but we can change that by example. And I'm grateful for you, and keep it up.
Oh, that's awesome. Thank you so much. Well, Lila, I'm so grateful for you to just come on the show and share all the little gem nuggets and tips, and with time blocking, setting your mind in the right path, and everything that you've shared was just so valuable. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me, Sharon.
Absolutely. Now, I hope you enjoyed this episode of Gems of Motherhood podcast. If you're wanting to connect with more amazing Gems of Mothers and more resources, head over to gemsofmotherhood.com, where you can subscribe to the show. That's where you'll find show notes with actionable tips and any links mentioned by our guests. Most importantly, I hope you will find inspiration and learn to cultivate your own journey. You are loved. You're an incredible gem to God. He knows you intimately. He knows what you're going through, and He knows what you need. Remember, you are fearfully and wonderfully made in Him. Be sure to tune in next week for our next episode.